Welcome back to the In Good Company podcast. Just the deadly duo again tonight, guys. We've got young Stuart here with me. How is Stuart this evening?
He's better now. You've just called me young.
Yeah. Well, I have to. Well, I mean, anyone's young to me, mate. You know, I mean, everybody's young.
Don't feel too young at the minute.
No. We'll be all right. Anyway, this is, of course, In Good Company on behalf of Manchester TV, part of the local TV network. So we've gone from 3 back to 2, but I'm sure we'll be back up again next week to 3 or 4. We'll obviously a lot of things happening in the world at the moment, so a lot of guys are struggling to get on. But me and Stuart will keep things ticking along nicely. So we're going to talk all things Manchester City, of course, and we're going to start with the obvious. We've reached the FA Cup semi-final, Stuart. Back another trip down to, I think, was it Kenny Dalglish that called it Anfield South? Was it Kenny Dalglish or someone? I can't remember who it was.
I don't know.
Yeah, he called it Anfield South, the cheeky bugger. I mean, it's been there about twice in the last 20 years, I think, Liverpool. So, I mean, I don't know where he gets that from. It's one of their ex-players. I don't know if it was Kenny Dalglish or someone else. Anyway, it was one of their reprobates called it Anfield South, but we know it, of course, as Etihad South, our complex down there.
Yeah,
so, of course, a good win, Stuart, against Southampton. We'll go into more detail. Your thoughts just in general on the game, just a brief summary.
Thought we played quite well. Thought it was a bit of a slow start. I was a bit worried at first, but once we got going, I thought, this is going to be much better than the league performance.
I mean, all credit to Southampton. I thought Southampton played very, very well. I thought they pressed. I think they took advantage of the fact they knew our defence, even though we had quite a good defence. Obviously, with Stefan behind it. For me, when we've got Stefan in there, he's for all the saves and good saves, and we'll talk about a couple he made later. We're not quite the same distribution wise and footwork wise at the back, are we? So I think Southampton knew that, and I think they did press a lot higher than they did in the league game, for instance, against Ederson, because they know they could probably get to us. Would you agree with that one?
Yeah, mate. Well, not so much on the Stefan. I mean, I like Stefan. I don't think he's done much wrong. I think his distribution is all right, but he isn't the same with his feet, is he? But there's not many goalkeepers can do what Ederson does with his feet and can pick a pass like that. But yeah, I think they pressed us a bit higher up and put us under more pressure. And I thought, let's have
a look at the teams. I'll give you their team. I think I've got all the pronunciations right. An interesting one, actually, because he made 4 changes to the game against Watford, which I was chatting to some Southampton fans down there in the pub before, and they said they were pretty awful against the Watford game before this. So they made 4 changes, but unusually they put Long and Armstrong up front. There's 2 Armstrongs, so I'm not going to differentiate between them. I mean, but apparently they're their backup strike. They've got 4 strikers, Stuart. I mean, what's that like? I've never known. What's that? What's having 4 strikers? I've never known the like of it before.
It's unheard of these days. They don't need any strikers.
So the 2 main guys, they actually did come on during the game, but the 2 lads who usually play up front for them were actually on the bench. So yeah, he didn't go totally strong. He didn't actually get a go for it, if you like. So surprising how well they did. So their team was Forster, Livramento, Stevens, Salisu, Walker-Peters, Romu, Ward-Prowse, the first Armstrong, El Yunusi, Long, and the second Armstrong. We don't need to go into any great details on these Armstrongs. So it's just 4 changes. So a little bit of a weaker team than probably had to play a big Premier League game, which was quite unusual. Well, City, Stu, what do you think of this? I think I got 4 wrong on this one. I was a bit out with this one. I had Stefan in goal. That wasn't a problem. I thought he might have risked Aki, but obviously he went Walker, Laporte, Stones and Cancelo. Very strong, because I had Zinchenko in as well.
I think last week we said we thought Zinchenko would play.
Yeah. I had Ferner in for this, and I would have been happier, in all fairness, to see Ferner. It's not hindsight. I just thought he was proper suited for this game rather than Rodri, the way he's been playing. So that was a surprise as well. I had Foden in instead of KDB, so it was a bit of a mess, really. But obviously either of those 2 would have done. Gundogan was in there. And of course, the front 3, I think we sort of more or less picked itself, didn't it? I think we've said Sterling, Jesus and Grealish up front. I think we went for that rather than Mahrez as well. A good bench, though. We had a good bench, Zinchenko, Bernardo, Thurner, Mahrez and Foden. So you had at least Bernardo, Mahrez and Foden to bring on if things weren't going to plan, or if we could bring Thurner on to cover for Rodri. So do you think of that City team? It was a little bit different to what we thought when we talked about it previously, but again, should have been good enough.
Stronger than expected, wasn't it, really? We thought Fernandinho would get a run out because he needs it. And then there was other players in there. I think Gundogan, we said, didn't we, last week? There was a few where we thought, they'd probably just bring the ones that needed a run out, and they just didn't really, they just went normal, really. It's not too normal, is it? But normal.
Yeah. Well, I watched it. Obviously, I was down there watching it. It's never the same watching it live. So I actually tried to watch as much. I watched most of it this afternoon again. I went onto the City Plus and watched it again. And it's funny. It is funny watching games that you're at because it's sort of totally different. I thought City played a little bit better than I thought when I was down there, in all fairness. But some of the stats after do sort of show that I was possibly right in certain things. I mean, Sterling was an interesting one, wasn't he? I mean, he probably could have scored 4 or 5 on the day yesterday. We'll get into his goal in a minute. I mean, he was on after 5 minutes. Had that little. He tried a bender, didn't he? But it wasn't high enough to be. I mean, Forster's a big lad. He must be about 8'6" there. Forster, I don't know how tall he is. Of course, we'll talk about him with that penalty later, which he's too big a lad to get down, I think, for that one. But yeah, and then he had that bender. Then he sliced it, didn't he? So that one where he sliced it again in about 10 minutes, where he was sort of with his left foot, and that was poor, wasn't it?
Yeah, he has moments like that, doesn't he, Sterling? I think if he gets too much time to think, he fucks himself up, doesn't he? Normally, if he's just going to bang it, he comes out to him and he bangs it and he scores a worldie. But if he gets too much time, I think he tries to do something too fancy and just falls over his own feet a lot of the time. But he gets himself confused, I think.
Yeah, I think KDB and Gundo were playing quite well early doors. They were doing. It really started well, and then he sort of petered out a little bit, I thought, in this game. But it was, the biggest chance came after 10 minutes. It wasn't for us, was it? They actually hit the post, and I saw on when I watched it again. I think it took a slight deflection off John Stones. I hadn't realised that at the time, and I wondered why. Because it looked as though it was going wide. And I thought it was like a snooker table, where the ball goes a certain way. I thought it was like that. And it wasn't until I watched the match back that obviously the commentator said, it took a little deflection off John Stones. So we were very nearly 1-0 down after 10 minutes, which would have been a nightmare as far as wasting time is concerned, because let Southampton get in the lead and it's going to be a nightmare to sort of try and chase it back.
Yeah, we know we've seen that, haven't we, a couple of times this season. But yeah, it did take a deflection off Stones, but it was also a very close.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it started from not the greatest Stefan ball, but all credit to Southampton. I thought they were knocking it around really well. I thought it was, even at that stage, it was sort of, I wouldn't say it was end to end, but you had that hint that it was going to be a bit more end to end, and it was for a lot of that second half until we sort of went up a gear, didn't we, in that second half? But it was 12 minutes, so we didn't have long to wait. There'll be a couple of minutes later. What do you remember about that one, mate? The first goal for City?
Not a great deal.
Sterling
scored it. That's all I can remember. I can't really remember a great deal of it, if I'm honest. So I've not slept a lot, and talk me through it, and I'll remember it.
Well, KDB tried to chip it through. Did he try and chip it through? Then it come back to, was it Jesus? He tried to chip it through and it sort of rebounded to Jesus, and he sort of just side-footed it to Sterling, who was free. And I think he mishit it. I think he slightly mishit it as well.
Sounds about right.
It actually took a deflection. It was on target, so it counts. But it actually took a deflection off the goalkeeper, off the defender as well. Even though it looks great in live, when you watch it back, it took a couple of deflections. So it's a bit scrappy.
It was a bit scrappy, but they were doing that thing again, weren't they, yesterday, where they were trying to walk it in, like we discussed the other week.
Especially Sterling. I mean, he was just stopping and starting and looking for other players rather than do it. We'll come on to that later. I mean, it wasn't obviously at 1-0. We should have settled down. We didn't particularly. They still had some good chances. The forward Armstrong had a good chance. I don't know if you remember that, when he blasted it high and wide, when he perhaps should have done a little bit better. I think he went about 20 yards wide, which wasn't very good. Gundogan hit a post. Remember that at the near post? I mean, it was surely easier to put that one in. Cancelo cross, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a few like that, I think, where Easier
So I
to
thought it
score.
was looking like Crystal Palace all over again, wasn't it? At this stage, because I mean that didn't, and obviously Jesus smacked the rebound first time, and that was blocked. So you sort of think, oh well, we're still 1-0 up, no problem. We had a sort of a Rodri's rocket that skimmed just past the post, but that took a deflection. Remember that one? He picked up the ball in midfield from an error from Southampton. And he picked it up and sort of zoomed it. It's sort of, what do you call it? It wasn't a P roll. It was just skimmed along the floor.
Like bounced across it. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it took a deflection or if the goal
we
got
got a corner from it because it did actually just take a deflection. He must have been about 35 yards out when he did that. That was pretty good. And I was happy 1-0 at half time. I thought, oh, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. I've got my charity bet, which I had at half time, full time, City. So I thought at least one part of my little charity bet's on its way in. And then what the hell happened on 47 minutes? I mean, do you remember much about that one?
I just remember Laporte putting it in his own net. And you just think, oh, come on.
Well, it was that Iannucci, wasn't it? He was put through pretty well, but I can't decide if Stefan made an error or he didn't. If that had been Ederson, I imagine he would have gone out and clattered him or got the ball like he did against Arsenal that time when he went out and got the ball but got the player as well, if you remember the one at the Emirates.
But I can see why Stefan has not slid out.
I sort of forgive him because I could see why he did it. And it sort of made that Iannucci sort of go out a little bit wider to get out of Stefan's way, but obviously it left the goal vacant. That was the big problem. So I could see why he did it, and I'm not going to have too much of a downer. But then when he put the cross in, I mean, surely Laporte could have readjusted himself. I just don't understand how Laporte didn't. I mean, he had one of those games again. There's always one mistake in him. Unfortunately, he had about 3 or 4 in him yesterday. He wasn't great, I don't think, Laporte yesterday of the centre half. So
no.
He sort of didn't move his leg. It's as though his leg was stuck in a hole, and it just hit his boot and went in the net. And when the Southampton fans jumped up near us, because it was up the other end, obviously, to where the City fans were. And I just thought, what the hell's happened there? And he did show it on a replay, so we thought, what a load of rubbish. And then the referee just blew his whistle. We didn't even. I think he allowed us to kick off, didn't he? And then blew the whistle straight away.
Bang on half time.
So what did you think, mate? What do you think? 1-1 at half time. We pretty much, they give a good go. I mean, we'll look at the stats at the end of the game. They had quite a few chances themselves that first half. So I thought 1-1 was probably on the balance of it a fair result at that stage. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was fair. I thought they'd give as good as they got. Really, they'd had a few chances. We'd had a few chances. We took their chance and took our own chance as well. But also, I said at half time to my lad, I told you it'd be 2-1 after extra time. This.
Well, it's 1-1. Southampton, the fans were back up for it. I mean, the Southampton fans were obviously singing up and through most of the half time. It was quite funny, actually. I didn't mention it. On 33 minutes, I think there was that little injury where the guy went down, if you remember. Yeah. There was a bit of hold up in play. And literally, all the Southampton fans were zooming down. I don't know if they were going to get an early pint. This is 32 minutes. I mean, I know we go early at the Etihad. They start disappearing after about 35, 38 minutes. But, I mean, there's a mass exodus, and we started singing, is there a fire drill? Because it's just literally all the Southampton fans just started. And I think there's a lot of, not touristy Southampton fans, but a lot of Southampton fans who don't go regular. I think there's quite a few of those there yesterday, even though it wasn't the biggest crowd. I think it's only 29,000, wasn't it? And their averages are in the 30s. So it wasn't a lot considering there was nearly 5,000 City fans. Yeah. But that's just a weird thing. I forgot to mention it. It's just so strange because they just all started filing out. I mean, they did it again later on, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, they were dead chuffed. They'd sort of been quietened a little bit in that first half. City fans were, pretty good. And the second half, well, again, I think it started more or less the same as the first half. We had chances. We didn't look, again, there's a couple of times at the back where Stefan was sort of, where Ederson might find a player a bit far forward. He was a bit more square, Stefan, I think, playing it around with Stones and Laporte. So there's a bit more of that, I think, with Stefan. You don't get, Ederson, he sort of misses someone out with a little chip over, doesn't he? Stuff like
that. Stefan can't spray the ball around like Ederson and pick a pass like Ederson can pick a winger out and their half, can't he? But I did notice Stefan a few times with the balls come in and he's looking around, and I've seen him throw it out a few times, try to get one of the fullbacks going. But other than that, you are right. He does like to pass it more square, but you just got to do what he's comfortable with, and he's only young, I suppose.
Yeah, he had a good chance on 52 minutes. Grealish sort of had a chance where he perhaps could have shot with his left foot, but ended up giving it back to KDB, who had his shot blocked. I don't understand why, but by that stage, Grealish was having a bit of an iffy game. He wasn't playing that well, I don't think, by that stage of the game.
I think he just his confidence again in it, and also a case of one too many passes again around the edge of the box, and we're getting back to that where we just some players would rather pass it to someone else rather than just having a shot. Whereas in the derby, they were all just having a shot and they were all going in.
Yeah, I mean, we had hoped at that derby game we'd had a sudden change in what we were going to do, but obviously we've seen hints that perhaps it was just a one-off. It's just what we did against United. 60 minutes, Ward-Prowse had another little good chance, but it's straight at Stefan, and Stefan just gobbled it up, which a bit like Edison. They don't tend to fluff that many. Stefan's quite good at holding on to it, as Edison is when he gets blasted at him. They very rarely fumble or lose it, which is great. But that had come from a poor Rodri pass out as well, and I think Laporte had done something wrong before that. So again, Rodri was struggling just a little bit again, I thought. That's why I wouldn't have been too unhappy not to have seen Werner play this game, because I think Rodri needs, I don't know if he needs a rest or something, but he's not quite been as efficient the last few games, I don't think. But
I just want to risk him. I just wouldn't have risked Rodri.
No.
I wouldn't have risked
He's obviously going away with his national team, isn't he? He's playing with his national team. So, and they're playing in a big game as well. It's not a friendly, is it? It's their game. Their game's a proper qualifier of some sort, isn't it? I think anyway. But obviously, yeah, as you said, I just thought Werner would have done a better job as they give Rodri a rest, let him know that Werner's there, if you like, and might help him find his form. The guy on the commentary when I was watching it back said it was now end to end, and it was around the 60-minute mark. It was a bit to and fro, but good, come the Southampton, come Jesus to our rescue. Bit of a nothing ball down into the right side of that penalty area. Did he dive, mate, or was it a penalty?
Definite penalty. He tripped him up and pushed him in the back. There's no.
Yeah, I mean, there's no message from the referee. No message from the referee. He pointed straight away, even though the guy was shaking his head, said he hadn't touched him.
There's no way around it. There wasn't even like a mass. Oh, on the television, there wasn't like a mass. Oh, we must check VAR. It must be this. They showed it and went, it's penalty. Well,
it's that Salisu, wasn't it? Who's gets quite good sort of comments, but just clumsy by him. Because Jesus, all right, he might have got to the byline and got it back, but it was just a stupid. If one of our players had done that, I wouldn't be very happy. I was looking around for Mahrez. I thought, why the hell isn't Mahrez around? Where's the undroppable Mahrez? I did say that he shouldn't ever be dropped, but of course we couldn't just make a substitution before the penalty. So up stepped our captain. And what do you think of that penalty? I thought Forster did all right, but as a big lad, he perhaps didn't get down just quick enough. What do you think?
Yeah, the same. He hit it well, didn't he? And then I don't think he had much of a chance. He went the right way, but it's already, I suppose, once you're already going down that far, the ball's already in the back of the net, isn't it?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think he sort of went under his glove, didn't it? From looking at the angles and the things. So he may have been a little bit angry with himself, but for a big lad, it does. It's a bit like Niall Quinn when he saved Dean Saunders' penalty. You probably won't remember that.
Yeah, was that that game?
Oh, right. Well, there you go. I always think I'm older than loads older, but obviously he went down in stages. People used to save that penalty, because he was a big lad anyway.
Played well that day, though, didn't he? In goal, came out commanding his 6-yard box, catching crosses and everything. Winning that day.
So that was it. 2-1. Now Pep obviously wasn't happy with how we were playing because we weren't flowing, obviously, because he made substitutions, mate. I mean, I've very rarely seen Pep make a substitution after we scored a goal. Do you remember him doing it much?
No. Normally, but it was about the right time. Though, wasn't it? Normally, the time he makes substitutions. So,
well, he could see obviously that Grealish and perhaps, Jesus had just won the penalties. So it was perhaps a little bit unfair on Jesus, but certainly he could see Grealish wasn't getting back into this game at all. He was having an off day, and obviously Foden and Mahrez. I mean, all right, apart from the fact that you're risking them, but so what? They're not real injury-prone players anyway. Let's be honest about it. They're very rarely injured, so you're not risking anything. So that was a bit unusual by Pep. I was a bit shocked by that. And then I was equally, well, I wasn't shocked on the 71st minute. Stefan was booked. I have no idea explanation. I want to ask referees why City keepers get booked for time wasting when they do it once or twice, and yet when we play teams, they get away. I mean, Forster was all right yesterday because they were never in front. Forster starts wasting time if it's 0-0 or, but because we scored an early goal, he never really wasted that much time. But he's the prime example. There's loads of keepers like him in the Premier League. And yet, Stefan, he's the only guy who got booked all game. There's only one booking, and it was Stefan. Absolutely ridiculous.
It seems strange.
Is it a vendetta against City and keepers? Is it something to do with City, or does it happen to other teams?
Well, it doesn't seem to happen to other teams at the Etihad, because I think the only keeper I've ever seen get booked for time wasting at the Etihad is Ederson. Yeah. After we've watched teams time waste at 1-0, and then when we get to 2-1, Ederson will do some kick-ups or something and get booked.
Well, it just annoys me. I mean, it's just a little thing, and no one, you say it to other fans and they'll say, "Oh, well, it happens the same to us." But I've not seen it in any other games, even where keepers are picked on. Like, as soon as we start to do a bit of game management, we get stung for it. I just don't understand the logic. Still 2-1. I don't think Southampton really did that much at 2-1. They didn't suddenly sort of. It wasn't the siege of the Alamo or anything like that. Mahrez missed another great chance. I think he sliced one. Adams, it was, wasn't it? 2-1, and just before we were there, Adams broke through, and Stefan, fantastic save, wasn't it? I mean, that could have been 2-2 at that stage.
Yeah. I think my lad was saying it was Che Adams who scored against us at our place as well, or one of them or something.
Yeah, I mean, he made himself big, Stephanie. I mean, and he I think it's sort of one of his right or his left arm. I'm not too sure what it is, but again, that was nothing because he hadn't really done that much from the 60th minute when we got that 2-1, and this was like now the 73rd minute. So obviously, sorry,
just sort of caught us. We're pushing forward, and they just sort of.
Again, a lot of the goals I thought came from nothing, if you know what I mean. They were sort of, you didn't really, there's some great moves, but they didn't end up in goals from both teams. Southampton did some nice little moves that didn't end up in a goal, and City similarly. And some of the goals obviously came from deflections or rebounds. And of course, on 75 minutes, we get another goal from a rebound, but what a cracking goal from Phil Foden. Obviously not been on too long. And again, I think it was chested out to him by the Southampton defender who kindly chested it back to him.
Yeah.
He took a touch, didn't he? What a goal that was.
Took a touch and walloped it. Yeah, it was an excellent goal. I mean, I've seen on the Tinterweb this morning, people saying, you see them goals every week. They're only making a big deal. They're only making a big deal of it because he plays for City and he's English. But I thought it was a cracking goal. I thought he took it really well, and it was hard because it came out to him pretty quick, and he controlled it, and I was a bit off balance still and just whacked it.
He put his foot through it, didn't he? That was a superb strike. I mean, it's just perfect. And it was 3-1. It's game over. It was more or less once Stefan had made that save. It probably not the stuffing out of Southampton, but it was definitely game over. That 3-1. We just thought we'd make it a number 4. Did Mahrez mishit that? It seemed to go in a different direction to where he was looking, or was that the idea? Did he give him the eye? Did he give the goalkeeper the eye?
Probably been watching Ronaldinho videos, hasn't he, or something before the game? Just did a little no-look or something.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, I watched it back, and I honestly think he did it. That's where he meant to put it. As simple as that. Yeah, he gave him the eye to curl it far corner, which is what Mahrez does. And Forster didn't even move, did he? He was rooted to the spot for that goal. He didn't even move at all. I think that was some good play by Cancelo and Gundogan. I didn't think Cancelo had the greatest game again, but that was a nice little touch from him. And I thought Gundogan played very, very well in that sort of role yesterday. He seemed to be involved in a lot of things, almost had a couple of goals himself, was getting a few kicks and getting up, which is good to see. I mean, remember Gundogan when he came back from that injury, he didn't want to risk anything, did he, for a long, long time. Yeah. Now he's accepted that, football, you got to get stuck in, and occasionally he'll get kicked and he'll be fine. So hopefully he's got that off his back, which was a big problem. So that was 4-1. We brought on another raft, didn't we, of substitutions. Zinchenko, Ferner, and Aki came on all for the correct players, Cancelo, Rodri, and Laporte. So it's like for like changes.
Fresh legs.
87 minutes, Mahrez had another good chance, put it wide. And 89 minutes, yes, Sterling had another chance, probably his fifth chance of the game, for about 5 yards. And he sort of put, remember that one? I think he put that wide, did he? He sliced it wide from about, a header, wasn't it? He went to head it, looked as though he positioned himself to head it beautifully, and then just sort of, I don't know where it hit. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it even hit his head. I think he probably hit his chest. I'm not too sure.
He's been taking attacking heading practice with Laporte, hasn't he?
Well, it's funny because he's not usually that bad at heading. If you get that sort of head, not when it's high, obviously, and getting up in it like a salmon, but when it's low down like that. And I just thought that watching it, obviously at the game, I didn't appreciate just what an easy chance it was. It was only when I watched it back. So just looking at some of the stats, Stuart, one thing that interests me, I mean, the obvious things. Southampton 13 shots, 3 on target, and us 19, 6 on target. So it proves that Southampton give it a good go on the day. And as I said, with 2 strikers who weren't the main strikers, to be honest, I worry a bit if they did have the main guys on. I think it would have been a lot tougher yesterday. They had played the proper team, which why? I don't understand. I mean, it's a cup, it's Wembley. Surely. I mean, if I'm a Southampton fan, I would go. Yeah, they seemed happy because he mentioned in that when I was chatting to these Southampton fans, he said, we think Long's getting a game today. Oh, great. So it's a good thing. And I thought, well, that's not the right way of looking at it, surely. I mean, perhaps it's because we have success. I'm not too sure. But, we're not looking at doing favours for players, giving him a start because he's a good lad. We're looking for winning games. I mean, what's your thinking on that, Stu? I mean, I'd be a bit disappointed as a Southampton fan with the way that panned out yesterday, that we didn't have our 2 main strikers, because I think they would have put up a better. Well, they put up a good fist of it anyway, but even better with the 2 main guys up front.
Yeah, well, I mean, they played really well and twice against us, and they've taken points off us both games this season. Why would they just not stick to that?
Why don't you want a trip to Wembley? Why did they deny the fans a trip to Wembley?
And they're not in any risk of getting relegated, are they? Like, they're not going to get
relegated.
relegated.
They're 11th. There's no possibility. Unless the world collapses in a big giant sinkhole or something. But absolutely nothing. I don't understand the lot. But loads of teams.
If they're going to get in Europe or anything like that, I could understand it. But the kind of yesterday was like the end of their season, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's looked as though it's like, let's go out and enjoy it. But yeah, let's go out and enjoy it and get a chance of getting to Wembley. I don't understand the logic. We had 65% possession. And the interesting stat for me, and this I did see this during the game, we usually average anywhere between 88, 89% and 92, 93% pass completion, where accuracy of passing. It was 82% yesterday. The passing
they were pressing really well, though, weren't they? They pressed really well, especially first half, I thought, Southampton.
Yeah. They rattle. I think certainly, as I say, certainly defensively, we didn't pass it around as well as we could. There was a lot of passes that seemed to go out for throw-ins that I didn't really notice when I watched it back. But while I was there, I was thinking, oh, God, not another one going out for a throw-in that's supposed to be. And the pitch looked really narrow as well. I don't know if they've got a really narrow pitch, Southampton.
I don't know.
But it did look really, really narrow. So there we go. 4-1. We can't complain. Any other thoughts on the game? Anything that took your eye, or as I say, apart from I don't understand why Southampton didn't, have a well, they did have a good goal, but have a good goal with a proper team out.
That's it, really. Yeah. But like you saying about the penalty and Mahrez, maybe De Bruyne was the best person to take that penalty because Mahrez likes to go high, and Foster's quite tall, and so he probably would have saved it up top.
Yeah,
but he does get close to the top corner, though, doesn't he? So I
was just dreading Sterling grabbing the ball. To be honest with you, I would have had an heart attack if he'd have grabbed the ball.
He gets a lot of stick, Sterling, but he's only like 4 goals away from our top 10 all-time goal scorers now.
Well, that's another quarter final, mate. I think this is since we won the cup in 10-11. I think this is our 6th semi-final now. 6th semi-final since then, certainly 6th or 7th. We've had a lot, and we're in the minus figures. We've lost more than we've won, unusually, which is a worry. But obviously, we'll remedy that against what we'll talk about just very briefly. Now we've got Liverpool, mate. I believe they slutched it. I didn't watch the Liverpool Forest game.
No,
I didn't see any of it. I've heard, obviously, I've looked at, this VAR thing annoys me as well, mate. I mean, how can you have, you got 4 semi-finals, and it's not the fact that they're at big grounds like Borough and Forest who can have VAR. There's absolutely no problem with that there. But the fact they stick to this rule that, you're not a Premier League team, you can't have, which for me, yeah, fair enough. But no one has VAR. Just have it one or the other. It just is stupid, because I think they were saying in that Forest Liverpool game, there's certainly things that would have gone to VAR and been checked. A penalty shout, which I believe I've not seen it back, where the goalkeeper took out the Forest player, but it seemed to be a bit similar to the, from looking or reading about it, that one where Edison took the player out because his momentum took him through. Remember that one?
Newcastle.
When he took him through him and took the player out, but his momentum, the player wasn't getting the ball; it just his momentum took him. So I think it was something like that. But it just does seem strange. And people have been saying today Liverpool aren't playing particularly well. We're saying City aren't quite at it. Certain players, yes. I thought KDB yesterday was superb. Yeah. I thought he was brilliant. He worked so hard. On top of that, he played some good balls as well. He don't always work, but I thought KDB was getting back to near his best, and I thought Gundogan was also exceptional, considering he's not been playing very much. I thought they were my 2 standouts yesterday, and John Stones did a good job again, despite Laporte trying to give the ball away.
Yeah, no, Stones has been the best out of the 2 of them when they paired up for a while now. I'd rather, when it comes to it, I'd drop Laporte, bring Diaz in, and have Diaz and Stones rather than Diaz and Laporte, mate.
So Liverpool, mate, obviously we'll talk about we've got Liverpool. Obviously, it's going to be in and around our Champions League matches as well. So we're going to have to suffer Liverpool. I mean, let's face it, on the load of averages, if we play Liverpool twice, I mean, we could end up getting them again in the Champions League in theory, couldn't we? But if we play in the final, if we play Liverpool twice, there's a chance we'll win one and they'll win one. So what are your thoughts? There's a chance that we're not going to win them both. We're very close teams. Would you take the cup, or would you beat them in the Premier League? I mean, if you have a choice.
I'll take a draw in the league and win in the cup.
But we can't. We're going to lose one, mate. We're going to lose one of them 2.
I'll lose the one in the cup.
So win the Premier League and lose the FA Cup.
Correct.
Yeah, I wouldn't totally disagree with that. I wouldn't have minded Chelsea or Palace. Well, I wouldn't have minded Palace. Then again, we're not scored against Palace this season.
I was a bit worried about getting Palace. So
it's probably not a good idea to get Palace. Although, as I said, we should have stuffed them at their place again, a bit like Southampton in the league. So we've talked about Liverpool. We've talked about Champions League, but what we haven't talked about, obviously, we haven't talked about the draw on this podcast yet. Interesting draw. They're not obviously not the. They were probably my 3rd team, Atletico. I probably would have wanted Villarreal first, Benfica second, and Atletico 3rd. But it's not that bad, is it, mate? What do you think of Atletico? Savic is there, of course, isn't he? I think Suarez is still there, is he? Suarez is still. They've
got Savic, Suarez, Griezmann. They have that João Felix as well. They're a good side.
Yeah, I think that Felix. I was listening to. I don't usually listen to Talk Sport, but obviously it was on when I was coming back driving home last night, and they were talking about how Felix is playing very, very well. They play 3 at the back, and they play they're well organised now. They've had a bit of a mixed season, of course, after winning it last season, and they are struggling to get 4th spot. They can still get 4th spot and get Champions League, of course, without winning it again. But they have struggled a little bit. But apparently, they are finding a bit of form now, which is a little bit of a worry. But I didn't see them against United. I have no idea if how they did against United. Did you see any of that at all?
Saw most of the second game. I didn't see hardly any of the first game, but yeah, most of the second game.
Did they impress you then? What did they?
Okay. I noticed that they do a lot of rolling around, and
oh God,
he will go down and feign injury. But what do you expect with Simeone as manager?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
they'll be infuriating. If they get one up, they'll be infuriating, and the referees will fall for it every single time in the Champions League because they always do.
Yeah. So, would you say United were lucky to beat them, or did they deserve? Lucky to beat United, or deserve to beat United?
They deserve to beat United, but if United can go there and get a draw, then we should be able to go there and win.
Yeah, are you happy with the home leg first, or I don't like it particularly. I like to know what's going on in the home leg, whether we've won or we've not. I
I
don't
had
like
this
it.
conversation with my lad because he was like, "Oh," and he's like, "You." He wants to go away and then play him at home, and they reckon there's an advantage to it, don't they? Because you know what you've got to do. But just do that first. Let's just stuff them at home, and it don't really matter what we do at theirs because if we put 5 past them at home, they're not going to beat us 6-0.
Very true, and it leads us to, obviously, if we do get through, fingers crossed, lead us through, obviously, our side of the draw. We're at home again in the first leg, and obviously we're talking. What we're talking about now.
Chelsea or Madrid.
Chelsea or Real Madrid. Real Madrid had a bit of a pasting yesterday, I believe, by Barcelona.
Yeah.
That was a bit off wall, a bit from right field, wasn't it? I don't think anyone expected that. But Real Madrid, we know they're no, everyone said all season they're no great shakes. In all fairness, but I mean, would you rather play if we do get through? As then, who would you rather play?
I don't know. Of course, right. I like to go, and Atletico Madrid. The flights are expensive. Me and my lad have just not been long since been to New York, so money's a bit tight. So we're thinking about swerving that to then hopefully get to the semi-final. But then if it's Chelsea in the semi-final, we might not be able to go.
Yeah, well, there won't be many tickets, will there? Let's be honest.
Won't be any tickets.
That's if they've still got a ground or they've not sold it or whatever. It's not been turned into a health spa or something like that.
So I'm a bit like that, but I think Chelsea will beat Real Madrid.
Well, I think they will. I think Tuchel knows how to play these games, and they've still got some. I mean, they're still in the trenches at Chelsea. I think the players are in the trenches, and I think they've upped the game because of what's happening. In all fairness, and a group of guys, will stick together and try and battle through it, and that's what they're doing. They might run out of steam in the end. But at the moment, that's what they're doing. The winning games are doing very well in the league. They're making sure they get that third spot sort of guaranteed. They're sort of doing very well on that score. So, personally, I think, and it'd be nice to get through and play Chelsea and get revenge. But we know Chelsea can do stuff to us as well. But I think we're a bit more confident after how we played against them this season. That's for sure. That Pep's not going to overthink it. Other side of the draw, mate. Interesting, wasn't it? Obviously, we can't see Villarreal doing anything to Bayern. Can you on that side of it?
No, Bayern will do that, and I think Liverpool have got it quite easy with Benfica as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can see Benfica, Liverpool doing what we did to Sporting in theory. If they play a good, if they play the full team, if they do play the full team, based on the fact if they do stuff them, say 3 or 4-0, and then obviously they play us in the league, don't they, Liverpool, and then they can sort of play the best team and then relax for the week after when they play the second leg. And I think that's what they aim to do. I think we might not be able to do that as much, but at least we're not travelling. At least we don't have to travel before that crucial Premier League game, which we'll talk about in another In Good Company podcast, of course. So, I'm thinking, obviously, how about a City Bayern final? How about that? Would you go with that?
I'd go for that, definitely.
I don't think I could face a City Liverpool final.
Oh no, it'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it? City Chelsea wasn't too bad last year because there was hardly any, there was still loads of people in Porto, but we didn't hardly see a Chelsea fan all weekend. But if we played Liverpool and there's no COVID, Paris is just going to be full of them, innit? And it'd just be a nightmare.
Oh, they'll be there. I mean, there'll be for every guy there who's got a ticket. There'll be about 10 there who haven't, because that's what they're like. It's just horrible. So let's go. If Dave is listening, let's go for. He'll probably end up Atletico Madrid versus Villarreal final, mate. So I won't worry too much. But there you go. That's the joy of football, isn't it, mate? Right. Just a couple of more subjects. Mr. Haaland. I mean, all last week I was hearing from all these guys. Some of them had 200 followers. Some of them had 50,000 followers on certain YouTube channels, telling me that, of course, Mr. Haaland is sort of done and dusted.
I've heard that. I've been told that as well.
What are your thoughts, mate? Have you seen anything concrete on this? Any guys that that are in the know that are, I've heard the excuse that, well, that many people are saying it's got to be true, but obviously only one person to say it and the rest to copy them, and they're all saying it. So it's
nobody's in the know. Nobody on Sky Sports News know what's going on. They just repeat what they see on social media. My lad is adamant it's happening because it's on the internet and it's on. But he's got learning difficulties, so he could be excused. The other people on the internet is grown men saying he's definitely going. No, he's not. Riolo, whatever his name is, knows how to get the best deal for his client. And he knows by mentioning Manchester City have agreed this, they're going to pay
500,000, mate. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen.
£600,000 a week. And then they know Real Madrid will jump at it. They know United will jump at it. Liverpool will probably try and bid. Barcelona will try and bid. Bayern Munich don't like good players leaving the German league. So they'll try and jump at it. And he just wants a bidding war. He doesn't want that player leaving Dortmund for that 63 million buyout clause. He wants a bidding war because that gets him more money.
Yeah, I'm like you, mate. I just think all these stories. I mean, it's quite funny because obviously there's a Madrid site that's got quite a lot of followers. I can't remember what it's called now, but they've been saying that it's looking as though Ireland's chose City and all this sort of thing. So, they're doing it on the basis of when he does go to Madrid. We convinced him to come to us.
He went to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid got Mbappe and Haaland for a combined total of £63 million because Mbappe is going on a free. And we've still not got a striker.
Yeah. Well, so we'll borrow a couple of Southamptons. We'll be fine. They've got 4. We're all right.
So fire sale at Chelsea soon. Anyway, we'll get one of theirs. Yeah. We'll have
unless he's sat on that Formica table next to Cheeky, mate, with a pen in his hand. I don't believe what, because it's funny because just one of the sites that said he was coming, and within a couple of days later was saying. City are now the strong favourites. So, well, 2 days ago he said he was sorted. I mean, I don't get yourself sorted out. But it will still run and run. I mean, probably Harry Kane's still coming as well. So
I share all the pictures of Haaland in a City shirt that are superimposed and photoshopped. I share them all because it's funny. But I don't expect to see Haaland at City next season. Well, he might come. I'm 50-50, but I don't think it's done yet.
No.
I mean, all summer.
Well, isn't it illegal to be done yet? From a contractual point of view and stuff like that, tapping up and all this sort of thing.
Speaking of illegal, did you see that on the news today? That Sheikh Mansour has met with Assad from Syria, and the UK government have given him warnings and stuff. I was like, oh my, no, please no. Somebody put Sheikh Mansour in a room and don't let him talk to anybody for about 2 years.
Well, it's not. Well, he's not. Having said that, he's what's the word? If you're out there visible, I suppose you get involved in these things, don't you? But I mean, at the end of the day, he's his own man, isn't he? At the end of the day, but I don't care, mate. Do you? I don't want to be in Chelsea position, but it wouldn't bother me if it was, because I'd just get behind my team and enjoy it even more. Enjoy it.
Shit. I've watched the shit for the majority of my life.
Right, let's move to finish off the In Good Company podcast. I'm going to have a little look forward because we're not sure whether one of these will be done for next week. We're going to have a look to the 2nd of April, so the day after April Fool's Day. So hopefully we won't be suffering any April Fool jokes. A 3 p.m. kickoff. Again, we've had 1 or 2 of those recently. Burnley against Manchester City. Now, interestingly enough, it wasn't always the easiest game, Stuart. Burnley away, a bit like one of those where we could trip up. We could stuff them one year, and then all of a sudden we'd struggle and get a draw, or we'd just sort of get a 2. I think looking at the recent games in 2015 we lost 1-0. 2016 we lost 2-1. 2018 we improved, we drew 1-1. And then it's been great since then. We've won 1-0, 4-1, and 2-0. But, it's only going back 4 seasons, 4, 5, 6 seasons ago, when we're still in our pomp, still a great team. Yeah. It was struggling at Burnley. Burnley are struggling themselves. They need the points.
They'll be well up for it. They're physical as well, aren't they? And we don't really like it too physical. Well, I think we shy away a bit from it. I think we've got players in there in our team, obviously, that don't mind putting it about. I mean, little Bernardo Silva's not shy of throwing himself in somewhere. She played Fernandinho.
The weather might be all right. The weather might be okay-ish, but the 2nd of April, it might not be windy or cold. Or was it the highest ground in the country? Yeah, Turf Moor. Is it still?
No. The Hawthorns is the highest ground in the country.
Right. I thought Burnley was quite high up as well, because I was remembering quite cold when I went. I'm not too sure.
I always assumed it was Oldham but it's West Brom's for some mad reason. The highest above sea level or something.
Yeah. Well, their position in the league, obviously they've lost the last 3, so they're not in great form. The last win was the 23rd of February. They beat Spurs 1-0, of course, after Spurs had beaten us in that famous game. And then they drew 1-1 at Palace. Well, so there you are, on a par with us. But then they lost at home to Leicester 2-0. They lost at home to Chelsea 4-0. Yeah. And they lost away to Brentford 2-0, and Brentford aren't exactly setting the fire, the world alight just at this point in time. So they've lost the last 3. The 19th position, 21 points. So not great. All right, Norwich aren't going to overtake them, I don't think. You've got 2 games in hand on Watford, who are just a point ahead. So again, if they win the games, they're fine. They can go above Watford.
I've been saying that for weeks to my lad on our little podcast. Like we do our predictions at the start of the season. I predicted Burnley to go down at the start of the season, and he kept on saying, "Oh, you're doing all right." I said, "Yeah, but Burnley have got 5. They have 5 games in hand, and then now they're down to 2, and they've not won any of the games in hand."
Yeah, because they keep sort of drawing the odd one, but as I said, they've lost the last 3 now, so that's not going to do them any good. I mean, say Watford, they can overtake them. Everton, who are sort of plummeting, they're 17th, but they played the same games as Burnley, but they got 25 points. So they're actually 4 points ahead of Burnley, and yet they're supposedly struggling. But at the moment, they look as though they might have more chance of turning it round. Leeds are 16th, and again, Burnley have got 3 games in hand on them, but they're 8 points behind. So you're getting a bit iffy there now, catching teams like Leeds. We've got to win all 3 games in hand, and hopefully it won't start against City, that's for sure. And then you get Brentford. Again, you got 3 games in hand on them, but they're 9 points behind. So, literally, there's only a couple of other teams that are going to keep them out of relegation in theory. So, they will be fighting. We've got to believe City are going to do well in this. What worries me about City is obviously we have a very important Champions League game coming up straight after Burnley. So what are you thinking on the team, mate? Is he going to go strong if they all come back fit from the international break? That's another problem that we've not had. Will we have Diaz back? Obviously, we've missed Diaz tremendously, haven't we? He's back in training, isn't he, at the moment, I believe.
Back in training, seen that on the City website. Yeah.
Another couple of weeks off before this. Whether he'll be ready for this, I don't know, but. I mean, will Pep have one eye on the Atletico game, mate, or will he think we've got to win this Premier League game to go into the Liverpool game? Still with it. Obviously, Liverpool could be above us apparently because they play earlier, don't they? They play the day before, I think, or earlier in the morning.
It's possible, yeah.
So Liverpool could actually push us into second spot by the time we kick off against Burnley, which is a worry, obviously psychologically. But we usually cope with that. We have done over the years, of course we have. That's not a big deal. But when you've been ahead for so long, which is not what we usually do, that could have an effect. So surely Pep's got to go strong, but I would. He's only human. He's only Pep. I'm sure he'd look at the Atletico game 3 days later. Is it? It's only on the Tuesday at the Etihad.
Full strength team. We have to win. We have to win all our remaining league games. If we want to win the league, we have to beat Liverpool and win our remaining league games, I think. So full strength team, just go for it. They're professionals. They can play Saturday, Tuesday.
Yeah. And would you think gives Diaz another rest and then bring him back for the Atletico game?
I don't think we'll see Diaz before the Liverpool game, I don't think.
Right, okay. So we're going, obviously, the pair that didn't do so well against, as a partnership, I'm not going to blame Stones. I thought Stones played quite well. But
as a pairing. Nervous with Stones, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, Aki's a calm edge. I think Aki's quite calm. Would he not be a surprise to play alongside Stones in this game?
Stones and Aki, I'll be happy with that, yeah.
I mean, are Burnley still do they still rely on set pieces and stuff like that? Are they still that sort of team?
They've got a striker, actually. They bought a new striker, didn't they? Who scored quite a few goals in, I think it's the German league. The money that they got from that Chris Wood, we went to Newcastle.
Yeah, Newcastle,
For half the money they sold him for, they got this guy that's been banging him in abroad. He scored a couple since he's come over, so I don't know what kind of player he is, if he's a big jump you and edit in, or whether he's a skillful one, I'm not sure.
No, it will be a funny one, won't it? I mean, Sean, I don't think they've been in this position for a long time. I mean, you got to the stage where they were looking at top 6 a season or two ago. The way
not getting Europe a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah. Certainly possible. I might have forgot that they did, but Yeah, I think they've got a very good chance of losing their Premier status after I didn't look up, see how long they've been in the Premier League this time around, but it'd be a big blow for them.
Definitely.
And it will. I think it will be a tough game. It will be a tough game, but it is a must-win game for City. I think it's a must-win game for Burnley. But Burnley aren't down there because they're any good. Burnley are down there because they're pretty rubbish. I say this to people, and people say, "Oh well, they're desperate." I said, "Well, they're desperate. All right, they're desperate, but they're not very good. They're not suddenly going to turn into world beaters just because they're desperate."
They've been desperate all season.
It's more pressure. So I'm hoping. Obviously, we'll play a strong team, as strong as he can, allowing perhaps, as you said there, quite rightly, perhaps Diaz getting a little bit of extra rest.
Maybe he'll come on as a half an hour or something and start getting.
Yeah, he's got to have time in his legs, hasn't he? Whether it's there, I mean, obviously, I say that you can't get more crucial than this Burnley winning that, and then an Atletico Champions League first leg game. You can't get more critical than that. So it'd be nice to see him at some stage in that game. But there you go. That's so. Let's. I'm going for a nice 2-0 or a nice 3-1 or something like that. Something comfortable. They're not scoring many goals, so I'm hoping we can casually do a 2-0, perhaps a 3-0, a pinch 3-1 if they have to give them a goal. What are you thinking?
4-0.
4-0. Well, there you go. There's confidence. What was that one? What was that one? Was it 6 something? We've done a couple of 6s there, haven't we? Yeah. Let's do not done a 6 for a while, have we? So probably end up losing 1-0. But hey, there you go.
We've got to come back off this international break now, and they've got to come back and they've got to hit the ground running, and they've got to start putting teams to the sword like they have done in the past, and really lay a marker down and say, this is our league title, because Liverpool aren't going anywhere. And even if we beat them, I still think there's other ways where we could drop points. Yeah. We've got a much easier, not a much easier, but less tricky running than they have, I think.
Well, it's momentum. It's momentum's a good word. Is Liverpool have had that recently. And we, even though, as I say, even though this cup game was a nice little win, we don't still have a league of momentum. Obviously, our last league game was Palace. We've got no momentum going into this Burnley game. So if we beat Burnley and then can beat Liverpool, then it gives us back the momentum, and that's very important, as well as increasing the lead, back to 4 points. But as you said, still a long way to go. There'll still be seven games left after that. I think, is it 7 after the Burnley and Liverpool games?
We have to score some goals as well, because it could go to goal difference at the end of the season.
Well, we have to do that. Yeah, we have to start knocking a few in, because you never know. We don't want to lose it on goal. We don't want to lose it on goal difference, do we?
That'd be horrible.
Not much fun, that, is it? But there you go. Anyway, there's a lot of water will pass under that bridge. Anyway, Thanks, Stuart. Anything else, Stuart, that we've not touched upon in the City world?
I think that's everything, mate. I think we've done all right.
Well, thanks for joining me, mate, even though everyone else let us down as usual. Thanks for coming on, and hope you guys out there enjoyed this deadly duo chat about various things on the In Good Company podcast. So, Stuart, just to finish off, thank you very much, mate.
Thanks for having me.
As always a pleasure. Never a pain. All right, mate. And thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you'll keep tuning in to the In Good Company podcast, and we'll see you all again. If not next week, the week after, or whenever you can get on there and watch us. Thanks for watching. See you later, guys. See you, Blues.